Welcome to Week in Horror.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The only podcast that will feed your horror need.
The need to feed.
With JL.
Yeah, I'm a fucking masochist. I'll watch that shit.
Eugene.
Somebody has to be the sex symbol, I'm sorry.
Alex.
Shit, I just demonetized this forever.
And Johnny O.
How do you like that shit? Got halfway through the monologue before unmuting myself. Golly, it's one of them fucking days.
With industry guests.
Hi, this is Richard Oakes, Director of Host.
Hey, this is Adam Leader, Director of Host.
This is Matthew Mark Hunter.
I'm Don Ellie.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And this is Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
News, trivia, and more.
One by one, we will take you.
Join our live show Wednesdays at 7 Central, youtube.com/weekinhorror, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Week in Horror. Stay scared. Welcome, horror fans. It is Thursday, not Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Central, and it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast.
7:16, sir.
Do what?
It's 7:16, sir.
I'm going to punch you in the face. The only podcast that's not the only one waiting for you to get home. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, you can join us here for our live show on YouTube, so you too can laugh and scream with us, flex your horror knowledge in the live chat, and maybe even win some trivia prizes. This week, we are covering select films released in horror history April 3rd through April 9th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I am JL, and with me tonight are Aaron and the guy who likes to interrupt my intros.
Well, if I didn't do it, somebody else would, so.
And evidently mine too.
Fuck all of you.
Oh, he's such a tool. Oh man, it has been.
What your mom said last night, Trebek.
I'll play your game, you rogue. God, I got something in my eye. Fuck.
Yep, that's exactly what your mom said too. Ooh, poof, motherfucker.
That's what the mustache is for.
Sorry.
Anyway, how's everyone doing tonight? Let's do some amazing people in the chat. Let's say hi to who we've got with us tonight. I know that we're usually on Wednesdays. Tonight we're on Thursday, and you can blame Johnny because I'm directly going to throw him under the bus for this one. I'm just straight up, it's Johnny's fault. So you can blame him.
Yeah, my fault, not the guy who was supposed to be here who's not here. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Eugene is out there securing our future.
What the fuck do you think Johnny is doing?
Eugene is Big Daddy, sir.
The same goddamn thing that Eugene is doing. So get your ass.
Eugene is to us like the Big Daddies are to BioShock, my friend. He's out there securing. He's out there locking it down. He's out there protecting the little sisters and making sure that they control all of the plasmids, okay? That's just the way it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's say hi to who we've got in the live chat tonight. I see Travis Brown is in the house. Good to see you, Travis Brown. Travis Brown was our big winner on the latest After Dark. It was a blast. And if you want to see how he bested us, if you're a patron, check that out. It was an awesome, wow, I was impressed. Horror trivia, we've definitely met our match, both me and Johnny, because usually, we're the kings, but we were unthroned.
We're still the kings.
Well, that's true. We're still running the show. If all of a sudden we were gone, it's like, nope, you've lost your seat. He's dethroned us. It's the Normans. Anyway, so thank you for being here, Travis Brown. It's so good to see you. Tony Regime as well. Thank you so much for being here. And by the way, bam, there are our amazing patrons, of which Travis Brown is our latest. Let's just go ahead and say it now. Travis Brown is our newest patron of Week in Horror. So welcome to the Week in Horror patron family, Travis Brown. We appreciate your support, helping us make the show the amazing time that it is, or it tries to be. But thank you so much for everything. But Tony Regime is in the house. Good to see you, Tony Regime. And I see Angel Rivera is in the house as well. Another one of our amazing patrons. Thank you so much, Angel. Or did I miss that? Well, hang on a sec.
What happened?
No, dang it. I was thinking Sarah Velez. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I'm so off tonight.
See, it's
when you throw me off by a day, God bless it.
You have to learn how to adapt, JL.
Oh, I do. I really do. I'm too stuck in my ways. I'm fucking old. What do you want from me?
Whoa.
I think that's why you hate me, is because I'm walking chaos.
I thought I was a walking chaos.
No, you guys keep me young. So
You're just
Angel
a damn
Rivera, good to
mess.
see you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that's what I was thinking. I hope the shirt has arrived. It should have arrived. Let me know when it does. I got the email, so hopefully it'll get there soon. Raven Darkstar's in the house. Good to see you, Raven Darkstar. Thank you so much for being.
Hi, Elizabeth.
And
they said hi to me, so fuck your mother. I had to say hi back.
I didn't say anything. I was just scrolling down.
I can feel your look.
I was looking at the screen. And Donnie does that's in the house. Good to see you, Donnie. Thanks for being here. NA as well, one of our oldest patrons. Thank you so much for being here, NA. We appreciate it.
Travis Brown, you're an asshole, but I like it.
NA says, Pet Sematary, this better be the original. Unfortunately, it's the
remake.
remake.
It is. Stick around and find out how original this one is. Yay.
Cindy Johnson's in the house. Good to see you, Cindy. Says, Weekend Horror. Good evening, kind sir. Hope you're doing well this evening. We are doing good. At least I'm doing good. I hope that my co-hosts are doing well as well.
Well, Aaron's sitting there cross with his arms across his chest, thinking, I stayed up late for this shit.
Yeah. I'm just glad I'm a free agent. If anybody out there's hiring for podcasts.
Beaver C, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Says hello, folks. Elizabeth Sylvester, thank you for being here. Another one of our amazing patrons. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We do appreciate it. Says hello, my friends. And I see, that's just Aaron. Yeah,
that's that guy.
And Charlie Welch, another one of our amazing patrons. The only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you. Charlie Welch says, yo, this is fantastic. We got a bunch of amazing people here in the chat tonight. So, yes, without further ado, because we have some interesting films to talk about tonight.
We also have some interesting, like, pre-film stuff to talk about.
This is true. And Annie says, Pet Sematary remake? I may have to reconsider my subscription.
I told you should have went with me on that one.
Don't worry about it, NA. We're going to get through it together. Kicking and screaming. But yes, our first big news was a brand new patron, Travis Brown. Thank you for joining us. And I said, Cindy Sue. Hey, Cindy Sue. Good to see you. Hey, Cindy Sue. How are you?
I always think of Jim Carrey every time I see Cindy Sue.
Oh,
Jim, because you never mind. You know why.
So our first big news was our brand new patron, and then of course, Johnny, you got some big news.
Do I have some big news?
You have another kid, right?
Oh yeah, like a fifth one. Maybe seventh. I fucking lost count.
I lost track. Where are they?
Who knows? They're around here somewhere, I imagine. No, my documentary was picked up, selected as a semifinalist in the Hollywood International Golden Age Film Festival. So looking forward to seeing how well that does. I'm supposed to get another update on the 10th of April. So hopefully we have some more good news and we'll see how it goes.
Fantastic. Well, congrats.
Thank you.
All right. And there was another thing about, before we jump into the last thing, I wanted to get your guys' opinion on, because something I recently heard about that came up in horror news. What did you have? What else did you want to bring up?
We're talking about, wait a minute. Are we talking about the same thing? Are we on the same page?
The last thing for the new stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So I heard something new, and I'm sure you guys heard about it as well, because you guys keep your ears to the ground as much as I do. Mm-hmm. And apparently HBO Max, because they're really going hard into new content. I guess going hard into content. There's going to be an It prequel. Yeah,
they've been talking about this ever since the trilogy, the most recent, not trilogy. The most recent remake of It came out. They were talking about making it a trilogy. Originally, they were talking about just doing a third film as a prequel. And now HBO said, why do it as a prequel when there's a lot of story there? We could definitely, flesh it out into a pretty good miniseries.
Right. So that's what I heard. I heard that I had heard that they were possibly going to do a third one that takes place after the events of the second one, but now I hear it's a prequel, and I'm not 100% sure. So
I'm on this one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Aaron. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm honestly surprised they're not trying to spin it out into a series, because if you read the book and they talk a little bit about it in the old miniseries from the 90s, there are a bunch of little things, tales from Derry along the way that kind of collect to explain what it is, like the giant bird that's seen over the factory before the factory fire and stuff. I'm surprised they're not trying to spin it out into, a few episodes with each of those events, because those are probably, like, I was disappointed those weren't. Those are really cool.
From what I understand, that's like going to be the focus of the prequel series. Is going to be of those stories, of the backstory before he meets the kids. I'm just curious if they're going to keep the original timeline or if they're going to go with the new timeline.
It's hard to say. I mean, details are scarce as to what exactly they're going to do with it, and obviously we'll find out more along the way. What annoys me the most is that, okay, so obviously we have our reservations regarding adding content to the Stephen King universe and trying, because these things that were written about very, very sparsely in order to give flavor and give context to Stephen King's novel. The problem is that HBO has a major track record of dumping tons of money into their content, and then at like the weirdest times, especially on particular things, just dropping them. So like one of the two biggest examples of where they were going really good and then all of a sudden there was nothing, was where they just like fell off, was Rome and Carnival. So Rome was amazing. It got 3 seasons and then they just dropped it. They didn't renew it because apparently it became way too expensive to make the show, because it was all like period authentic. So
it's so weird because they had no problem dumping money into Game of Thrones.
Exactly. And then you've got all the absurd amount of money they have going into Game of Thrones, and now they're doing a Game of Thrones prequel, despite the bad taste that they left in people's mouths with season 8. And now, but then they take a show like Rome, give it 3 seasons, and then dump it because it's just too expensive. They do an amazing show like Carnival, give it 2 seasons, and then dump it.
And it wasn't like these aren't popular shows. People loved them.
These were critically acclaimed dramas,
right?
That were usually like the talk. Every new episode was like the talk, was like water cooler talk. So then they dump that, and then they turn around and they get a show like Lovecraft Country, which arguably is some of the greatest television I have watched in the past like 5 years. Lovecraft Country was amazing, and then they dump, and that show, 16 Emmy nominations for that show, and then they dump it after the first season.
Yeah,
they don't have a track record that I'm comfortable with.
I just don't understand.
Basically,
go ahead, Aaron.
They don't offer you dessert unless you let them shit in your mouth. Basically, that's what you're saying.
Gross.
I'm
accurate.
It's accurate. And Angel Rivera brings up just like Netflix and how they dump pretty good shows after 2 or 3 seasons. And Amazon Prime did the exact same thing. Truth Seekers came out with, it was a Nick Frost Simon Pegg vehicle that was really good. It was a horror, definitely a horror comedy, where it wasn't slapstick, hilarious like you get normally with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, but it was funny, but it was predominantly horror because it was about people, encountering seriously horrific paranormal situations. But it was friendly and anybody could watch it. It was not so extreme over the top that it wasn't for kids. Anybody could watch a show. It was fun. It was well written. It was deep. It had poignant moments, funny moments, and then they dumped it after 1 season. And I'm like, what the shit?
Well, you keep seeing this model now where they do a ton of series and then shed all but a couple. So they throw smaller increments of money at a ton of stuff, but they only stick to a couple. And I don't know what the hell their model is. It cannot be the ratings on it or the critical approval or anything. It's got to be money. But even then, there are some that are showing profit and nothing. I don't know if the pandemic hit some of them, because I know that was a factor in a few. But I see no logic in what they keep.
It really, that whole model, people are calling it the Netflix model. And I think that's probably accurate, actually, because if you look at Netflix, especially with like the Marvel series, I think that was more of a Disney thing than anything. But it's, everybody wanted the 3rd season of The Punisher. Everybody wanted the 4th and the 5th season of The Punisher. We might be getting those, by the way, Same thing with Jessica Jones. Same thing with Luke Cage. Same thing with, what was that?
Daredevil, definitely.
Daredevil, yeah. And then
Yeah.
you can switch out of the Marvel, look at things like what was that? Santa Clarita Diet.
What the?
That was a great show. That was a great
on
show.
a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Ugh. So obnoxious. So absolutely obnoxious. But I mean, like I said, HBO Max has made some good choices. The Leftovers was a fantastic show that they took to its conclusion. They still have some excellent programming they have on. John Oliver is still going strong, and I really enjoy John Oliver, but it's like I have no idea what the hell is going on with this. And Raven Darkstar brings up Paramount Plus is doing the same with Star Trek. And I have to admit, the same thing happened with Stars and American Gods. And now I found another show that I love that's over on Epix called From, which is a graphically horror production about people trapped in a town that they can't escape, and there are monsters in the woods at night that rip people apart in really horrific fashion. And it's fantastic. It's well written. It's taut. It's like mystery all over the place. I can't wait to find out what's going to happen. And I'm afraid it's not going to get a second season.
Yeah, you're not going to find out what happens because you're going to tune in. It's like, no, we've replaced it with Pottery World.
I don't know. So, like I said, I'm not holding my breath on an It prequel. I have no idea what's going to happen, especially with all the craziness that went down. With trying to get the Game of Thrones prequel going on, and I have no idea. So, when it comes to like new stuff and streaming, even Stranger Things 4,
Man, by the time they put that season out, them kids are going to be in fucking college. Nobody's going to give a shit.
Yeah. So I honestly don't know. I know that the pandemic screwed up a lot of stuff for a lot of productions, but like I said, for especially touching it and adding content to Stephen King's material that he didn't write, unless he is actually executive producing and putting new stuff out there that they can add into the show.
Well, there's a lot of stuff they can put in just based off of the original novel. There's a lot of stuff they can put in and draw from. So, I mean, there's plenty of material there that, he alludes to with the history of, Pennywise and whatnot. So there's plenty of stuff there they can draw from. But yeah, I mean, they're gonna Hollywood it up.
Probably. So
there is one last thing I wanted to talk about really quick before we got into the shows.
What's that?
We have been a little unfair or unkind to Bruce Willis lately, and it turns out that there might be a reason why his most recent performances haven't been the best.
Correlation is not causation.
He may have taken on a ton of them too, seeing what was forthcoming.
Yeah, right. So Bruce Willis's daughter, Rumor, recently released some news that Bruce Willis has declining mental health issues or mental capacity issues. What was it called? What were we talking about? Aphasia. Yeah. So he's not able to, or apparently it's a lot more advanced than we thought. Well, than they thought when they made this discovery.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can say that correlation and is not causation, but this is not a correlation type thing. When you're losing your faculties, when you're losing your actual ability to recognize people, that's not correlation. I mean, we could probably call that causation.
Well, no, I mean, I understand that. And while he may have been aware that there was an early diagnosis and they kept it under wraps for the time being, and he was trying to generate, basically put out as many movies as he could in order to try and just, because he knew he was going to have to retire. Yeah. And I get that because aphasia predominantly affects your ability to talk.
Right.
And to speak coherently. And obviously as an actor, you got to be able to speak.
Kind of need that.
It's kind of necessary. So I understand his decision. It's a very, very hard decision. He's had a pretty legendary career. The spate of weird movies that he's put out lately. I mean, it's kind of like felt very Nicolas Cage. But Nicolas Cage is doing it for pretty much financial reasons because he loves doing movies. So, whatever. And occasionally we get some really, really good ones. And I get why he has to do it. And I know we gave him shit. We were giving him shit because it seems like he's checked out. But maybe it was the effects of the aphasia. Maybe he had difficulty getting into roles, or it seemed like he had checked out. But either way, I'm saying it's a bummer and it sucks. It's a terrible diagnosis, and much like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, other neurological disorders, I wouldn't. I have nothing but empathy and sympathy for his family, for the kids, for Demi, and it's rough. And I wish them all the absolute best in trying to get through this with as little difficulty as possible, because it's going to be a rough road ahead. It's going to be tough, especially someone of the it's hard when you see someone with just legendary prowess kind of go that way. It just it freaking sucks. It kills you. And I recently got hit that when Selma Blair was diagnosed with MS, and Selma Blair, I love her to death. I've loved her since Cruel Intentions, and not for the reason people think. She's extremely talented. I mean, I love everything that she's done, and but that's when I first saw her. It was Cruel Intentions. Loved her in the Hellboy series. I absolutely adored her in Mom and Dad across from Nicolas Cage. She was just just crazy psycho. Was fantastic. And now I find out, and then we found out that she has MS and she's dealing with that, and that's really, really rough.
Yes.
And now we hear about this about Bruce Willis, and it's just like, you know what? He was a legendary dude, and we're always going to have Die Hard. We're always going to have Blind Date. So
what was that weird Skinamax style porn he did?
Oh,
Color of Night.
Color of Night.
Color of Night. Yeah.
Yes.
Color
of Night's one thing, but
awesome. I got to give it to her.
It's all about the Hudson Hawk. Give me some Hudson Hawk love.
Yep.
The passion project that all the critics hated, but we loved him for doing it.
Oh yeah.
Would you time your heist to like?
Would you like to swing? My daughters hate that song. I sing it all the time.
We're just like, wait, how long do you think it's going to take? 2 minutes 37 seconds, and they're like naming the different songs. By the time it's like, really? But I loved Hudson Hawk. I thought it was just goofy. Oh yeah, Yogi. I love it. Good Yogi. But Angel Rivera, Death Becomes Her.
Yep.
He was fantastic.
Yep.
God,
all right, let's do some movies. Let's talk about some movies. We got a great one to start out, don't we, Aaron?
Oh, I'm so excited about this first movie.
I love how you just jumped on that, just like
I know. I'm just debating the. I won't use the alternative title.
Well, before you say hi, before you jump in, I want to say hi. Wrote it no last name came in, jumped in. Good to see you. Wrote it no last name. He popped in about 15 minutes in, and Jinju as well. Thank you so much for being here, Jinju. It's fantastic to see you. So we got some more of our amazing supporters in there. So yes, oh God, Tony Regime, Last Boy Scout, fucking A.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, man. When he got out of that comedic and went into the action roles, and then he was able to put them both together with the whole 9 yards and the whole 10 yards. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. But yeah, him and Damon Wayans in Last Boy Scout. God, that was just come on. What would Joe do? He'd shoot everybody and smoke some cigarettes. I don't have a gun. I freaking loved it. He shoot everybody and smoke some cigarettes.
Yep.
I don't have a gun. I don't smoke.
The movie Last Boy Scout was a movie so good they made it again and let Kevin Smith fuck it up. One of his few bad movies, or two bad movies now.
All right. So yeah. Aaron, what do we got, man? Bring it on.
Dive into this head first.
That's Supercroc, aka Croc of Shit. Premiered April 3rd, 2007. Roll that footage.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, I was fighting the urge. I've been fighting it all week.
I'd rather show the commercial.
God, yeah.
Here we go.
Air National Guard picked this up about 4 days ago.
And we have no idea what this is or why it's on American soil.
Sir, if it stays this course, we're looking 8-10 minutes tops.
Sir! We lost the croc, sir. It's back in the water. You shifted course. It's hauling ass.
Where's it going?
Yay! I'm so glad you showed that. I'm talking about that last part where the crocodile jumps up. Remember that, folks. We're going to talk about that here in a second.
Yeah, I don't think the audience, the YouTube audience, can quite picture what a piece of shit this movie is without the visual on hand. All right.
Okay,
so
I can't
this
tell
was...
if oh, okay, good. So oh wait, I can't tell. I want to make sure. Okay, so we do. So no, because Travis Brown said, "Oh, look, a Supercroc trailer." Oops, YouTube blocked the stream. And I don't think that YouTube got us this time. Just for everybody's heads up, I did a little bit of transformative work to help the issue, so hopefully that will help us. So, to be perfectly honest, I have to say this: I think what I did to the trailer actually made it better.
Couldn't have made it any fucking worse.
Anything that shortens this movie probably is a vast improvement.
Oh man.
You want to know something really? I mean, before we dive in, Aaron, go ahead and give the breakdown, and I will tell you something else, something I found really funny regarding this movie. Go ahead and break it down for him.
Yeah, so it is directed, and I use that term very loosely, by Scott Harper. Screenplay by Stephen Bevilacqua. Story by David Michael Latt. My mouth is not working. Starring Cynthia. It really, my brain is just like, just stop and walk away. Starring Cynthia Rose Hall, Matt Blashaw, Kim Little, and David Novak, and it is an Asylum production. So basically, I mean, it's what it sounds like. They're chasing down and trying to kill a giant crocodile. It's based on a creature called the Sarcosuchus. I want to pronounce that right, or it'd sound even dirtier.
You did.
Yeah, that existed eons ago. And it's up front, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just them chasing it with CGI, military paraphernalia, vehicles, weapons, trying to blow it up and failing to do so. Should I go ahead and dig in on what it's based on, or do you want to save that?
No, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the gist of this. But it's good that you brought it the Asylum, okay? Because
that's where we're all going after watching this movie.
Yes, we're going to the Asylum. I went because we're going to dive a little bit and we're going to take a look at the Asylum itself and like what the Asylum is. There's not much to really say about this movie. As far as it literally is. It's as cheap as you could possibly get. The military things that they're obviously decked out at some Army Navy store, some Army Navy surplus store. They got the most basic equipment they got. Airsoft guns made to look like they're real. All the muzzle flash and everything is all CGI. The crocodile itself is CGI.
Did you notice that they had 2 machine gun sounds that they used over and over?
And did you notice? Did you see all the stock footage?
Yeah.
Like the stock footage they used, that they just put like a sepia tone over it in order to make it look like So it was like
none of it matched.
And it was it's absolutely atrocious. But what's really funny about this is that the when you watch the movie, it opens up, the Asylum presents Supercroc. They're all big about like this.
Yeah.
If you go into their filmography, all the movies they've done, they have over 100 credits of stuff they've produced since 2001. No, since 1998, I think. They've been making movies. Since 98, they've been making movies. Supercroc is not listed among them. So of all the movies they've produced, they don't want this one on the record.
We discovered the Redhead Stepchild.
Right. The movie starts out, and it's this. It didn't, obviously, what it's about. We all know what it's about. But if we didn't, right? The movie starts out with this, SEAL Team 6 wannabes fucking just trudging along, having this conversation about getting married. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
The way they were dressed, I thought they were fucking militia.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But If this is supposed to be a well-trained army unit, they're not fucking run. Oh, hey, by the way, we're gonna get married. You should invite your mother-in-law. No, that shit doesn't fucking happen.
Well, the dialogue in it.
Oh, it's so bad. There's 10 to 15 minutes of this shit before anything fucking happens, and then something happens, and it cuts away to somewhere else. Like, whoa! We just got 15 minutes into the movie, and you kind of showed us a croc. You cut away.
That's because
they ran out of CGI budget.
That's because it's daylight, and we can't show too much of it in the daylight. We have to wait till the night sets so that we can cover most of it up.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
So it that really part where the thing jumps up, like crocodile jumps up, right? Grabs the helicopter out of the sky. Okay. The original army unit that goes down there, there's only one survivor. And how did she survive? By climbing a tree. Okay. Search and rescue gets there, finds her, says, "Why did you climb a tree?" Now, mind you, this conversation happens quite literally 5 seconds after this crocodile has jumped out of the freaking ground and grabbed a flying helicopter. Okay. Guy says, "Why did you hide in a tree?" She says, "Because crocodiles can't lift their heads up."
Yeah.
Where was the fucking script supervisor? God damn it.
No, that's not on the script supervisor. Script supervisor makes sure everybody's saying the words that are in the script. That's on the writer. That's on the screenplay.
The script supervisor has got to be looking at some continuity going, guys, we literally just saw the fucking thing jump out of the sky.
You know, they hired half the crew off the street. They probably got them from the front of a Home Depot. Okay.
Rhoda Nelson was right. There was a script.
That's true. It's probably just a bunch of pictures written in crayon.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously, I put it on the writer. I also put it on the director for probably pulling a Michael Bay. He was just like, well, wait a minute. I thought she said that we just saw the alligator jump up and grab him. Now she says they can't look up. Shut the fuck up and shoot the movie.
Yeah.
Worry about your damn paycheck.
Then the editor fucked up on that one. Of course, again, I don't think they really edited anything. This has J.M. Truth written all over it.
Oh, it does. It really does. It's on par.
Yeah, from poor directing to terrible sound. Holy shit. The sound in this is so inconsistent. The ADR is terrible.
The ADR is awful, and the sound quality when they're inside the little office.
Yeah.
Like all it was just, I mean, I don't know. There was no, I guess there was too much ambient stuff going on. And so they've got ambient noise. They've got ambient hiss in the background, obviously from the air conditioner working, because you've got like 9 people in one small space.
Yeah.
And it's going to get really hot with, 9 people in a small space with a camera and a director and all the crew and then all the lights. So
a ton of bullshit electronics in the background.
Right. And so you've got ambient hiss, and then you've got some echo depending upon where they were facing. And it was just absolutely abysmal.
It was so terrible.
I would have been embarrassed to put my name on if I'd written something like this. Of course, I wouldn't write something like this. That's just me. But hey, movie's got a movie. The big thing about it, and so there's not much. I mean, we could shit on the film all day long.
Yes, that's the easiest part about this show, is shitting on this film.
That would be the easiest part. But the whole big thing on this is that obviously people watch this movie and they got to go, why? Like, how does this happen? So
here's the funny thing about Asylum type films. Like, as everybody thinks about stuff like Supercroc, and they automatically think Sci-Fi Channel terrible horror films, right?
Right.
When you think about Sharknado and all this, like the Megalodon versus whatever,
or like 3-headed shark attack, 4-headed shark attack, 5-headed shark attack, 6-headed shark attack.
Right. But when you look at things like, when you look at Sharknado, the first one, they were trying to make it like a serious, you could tell they were trying to make a seriously scary horror film, and they failed miserably. They failed so bad, it became such a fail that everybody made so much fun of it. Like, hey, you know what? Let's lean into that and do it again, right? And then
a serious horror film, you have Ian Ziering jumping into the mouth of an airborne great white with a chainsaw.
I'm telling you, they were trying to be. You could tell they were trying to be serious with that one.
Someone put that on paper and did not think for a second they weren't. They was like, this couldn't possibly be memed. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
People think the earth is flat and that you can live just like without food and just by breathing. I mean,
exactly.
Script is within reason for stupidity.
Right. Well, but so the point that I'm trying to make is that, you look at these films and some of them, they meme themselves like Sharknado. They leaned into the silly. Okay, we're just going to go over the top because these are so stupid, these are so bad, and we recognize this. But then you look at like Supercroc, and they're like, "Oh man, this is going to be super scary. It's going to be great." And they just don't realize how bad it is. And well, I guess they did because they left it off. But these types of films, we're talking about, analyzing the Asylum and what they actually do. It's kind of like the who is it? The Blumhouse model, except without money.
Right. And essentially, I've always thought of this as like the kind of down and dirty method of making a production house. And that was the big thing about, taking a look at the Asylum, looking at their past work and the things that they've done. So when the Asylum kicked off, they started, it was 1999 when they started out, and they were just doing like basic, like just standard, just trying to throw basic horror films out there. They had one of theirs, King of the Ants, was directed by Stuart Gordon, and they were attracting a little bit of fare, but it was pretty much just low budget, just schlock horror film, a little bit of exploitation, just to get their name out there.
Yeah.
It really kicked off in 2005 when they found a kind of niche, or I would say, honestly, they created a niche in 2005 when Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds came out, the Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning, I'm not 100% sure. That was kind of all over the place. But when that movie came out, Asylum released H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. So theirs was titled H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds, whereas Steven Spielberg's was titled War of the Worlds. Mm-hmm. And this was, and they slightly updated the setting. So they updated everything. So it was a little bit, it's still an adaptation of War of the Worlds, just fairly updated. And that's when they began the mockbuster, the kind of like the mockbuster run. And where a major film would come along, and then they would release a movie that almost immediately after that one. So like the big one would hit, and then less than a month later, theirs would hit. So, and it was like War of the Worlds, and then they did H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, and they did King of the Lost World, which followed after King Kong. Legion of the Dead, which followed after Land of the Dead, and then like Snakes on a Train, which followed Snakes on a Plane, the Da Vinci Treasure, When a Killer Calls, When a Stranger Calls. So, and they didn't stop Halloween Night instead of Halloween, Pirates of Treasure Island instead of Pirates of the Caribbean.
What JL is saying is like they're whenever you get those carbon paper, right? When you're writing a receipt out old school style, and you have the 3 different layers. You have the original, then you have the yellow copy, then the pink copy. Well, they're the copy
their ass with it.
They're the copy that happens when you forget to put the divider in on the next 3. That's how bad these are.
And I mean, and I remember seeing out there like on for download stuff. I saw stuff like AVH, Alien versus Hunter, which was their Aliens versus Predator Requiem mockbuster. Yeah, and the real kicker.
This is like Bollywood without Bollywood,
right? And then the real kicker, Transmorphers. Which followed after Transformers, and they just added in a bit more TNA, and because that's what they do. They focus on the horror, they focus on making it R-rated, and they want more tits and ass. So it's the exploitative.
Well, you're gonna have to sit through these shit films. You might as well get to see some boobies while you're doing it.
I might as well see some titties. Yeah, this is very true. I may as well see it. But that's where they really found their bread and butter. And over the past 20 years, they have that's what they've done. They followed. You name a major film that is a major studio film that's come out, they have almost virtually every single one. They have released a mockbuster right behind it. They even did one for Prince of Persia, called the Prince of Persia came out, and then the 7 Adventures of Sinbad came out. But then they'll also do stuff like they Paranormal Activity. They released Paranormal Entity, and then of course I don't know why they did Titanic 2. And
they're not even trying to hide it, right?
That should be a fantastic horror movie.
They've been hit with lawsuits because of how close it is, but because it's transformative, they're almost banking their entire film, their entire kind of filmmaking ideology is based on fair use.
Yeah.
So as long as it's transformative enough, they can release it, and it's all good. And typically they're direct to DVD or direct to streaming nowadays. But that's where their bread and butter is. But it has afforded them the opportunity, and they've, through the 20 years of doing these movies, they've actually gotten to where they can actually produce some stuff, and they are the guy. I mean, they're the group that's behind, obviously, Sharknado. They got 6 movies out of that, and they created the series Z Nation, which was a horror comedy, which was actually pretty decent. But Z Nation gave birth to Black Summer, which is absolutely stunning. So it just takes time and the willingness to grind. And as long as your movies can be cheap and they can pull a profit, and that's what it is. They set up with sci-fi. They, produce for sci-fi, you've got your automatic distribution right there.
Yeah,
it's built in. So yeah, it's down and dirty, and it's not as clean as Blumhouse, and I would say not really as authentic as Blumhouse. Staying kind of true to the art form. It's about making movies, having fun, and making money, and that's what they've done. So I can't. As bad as some of them are, Transmorphers was fucking bad.
I mean,
that was bad.
Is there any of them that are really good? I mean, you're like, oh man, you got to check this shit. It's so good. No, it's like, oh dude, you gotta fucking look at this train wreck I just saw. Come on now.
Well, they've kind of slotted themselves into what Roger Corman used to fill back in the film era, where they're trying to fulfill we know it's going to be bad, so let's make it so bad that it's good. But they committed the sin that we talk about all the time, where it's boring. It's not like you went blocky, slapstick, whatever. They tried to take it seriously, and it feels like a segment of a real movie stretched way out with tons of just shit dialogue.
Yeah. Like I said, it took 15 minutes just before we got our first croc attack in this.
Right.
And then it immediately cut away. Like you get a split second of a croc attack and they cut away to, that stupid room and wherever the fuck they were with this general that had a lot of, curse words in his vocabulary, which yeah, but whatever.
Yeah. What was it? It said, Raven Darkster says Warships, the sci-fi version of Battleship, was done so poorly. Not only was the CGI bad, but Michael Manson's uniform looked like Captain Crunch meets Castro. And that's the crazy thing is they will. I've seen the names attached to some of their movies. Like I said, that's Michael Madsen. Okay, and then
but Michael Madsen stopped being a good actor.
And Lance Henriksen has been in a bunch of their films. So one thing the Asylum has done is actually provided a cushion for a lot of former really popular TV stars or some they have brief A's and down to B's and C movie listeners, and they can play around in the Asylum deal. Come on set for a couple of weeks, dance around and do your thing, collect a decent paycheck, and then go home and pay your bills.
No, I think that's some like kangaroo court type shit right there. It's like when you get in trouble with the Academy, like we're gonna see Will Smith in one of these Asylum films soon. But when you get in trouble with the Academy, they put you to the kangaroo court, and one of the fucking punishments is you got to go do Supercroc 4.
Oh, it's kind of like it's the Michael Bay punishment. You piss me off, and I'll put you in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, holy shittier.
But I will have to say, I mean, for all of their how bad they are, at least they're some of them are decent time wasters. I will say Z Nation is at least kind of fun and it's funny and it's got some decent actors in it. Harold Perrineau Harold Perrineau is one of my favorite actors. He's in From. I'm currently enjoying that, and of course the Sharknado series for how goofy it is, shit like that.
I like how Frankie Nunez was in that, and the only way I'll come out of retirement for this movie is if I get eaten by a shark. And you're like, gotcha. Fucking. Not only does he get eaten by a shark, but he gets his legs bit off first and his arm, and then they take their time with it.
Made it really, really good. And I know that coming up, they have they released I know for this year, as far as it goes, they've got Moon Crash coming out, which is running off of Moonfall and Don't Look Up combined. And then they've got Dracula, the original living vampire, which obviously it's following after Morbius. So they've got that, and then they're just going to keep going and going and going and going. They even did one off of Dune. So Dune came out. They released Planet Dune.
Dune was terrible. I mean,
they make remakes of shitty movies, and it's like, why would you take a shitty movie and make it even shittier? Just move on.
Well, it works for them. It's money.
Yeah. I don't know how, but yeah.
Oh, I see. God420, one of our amazing patrons in the house. Good to see you, God420. Thank you so much for being here. So, but yeah, I mean, occasionally it's hit or miss. Obviously, they don't have the discernment that they're not concerned with having the discernment that, like, other places like A24 or Blumhouse has. But, they're decent time wasters. Sometimes you get to see a little TNA. Sometimes, there's a couple of, I would say, low grade gems, nestled in there, but you got to dig through a pile. You really, really do.
That's one big pile of shit.
That is one big pile of shit.
Aaron, does he want to ask a question because he's afraid of the answer?
I was trying to answer something in the chat. Okay, so what we want to know is, what is your favorite Asylum film? You can let us know in the live chat, drop it in the comments, or email us at weekinhorror@gmail.com, or go to the site at weekinhorror.net and buy a shirt that has me on.
And I see Surf has joined the chat. Hey, good to see you, Surf. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll see who actually has a favorite or an enjoyable Asylum film. Definitely, Johnny. What do we have up next? It gets even better, doesn't it?
We have to. And I didn't think we could get any worse than Supercroc.
Well, come on. At least the production value is improved.
Yeah, but that's like saying, well, nope, not going to do it. All right. So obviously we are talking about the 2019 No One Ever Asked for This remake, Pet Sematary. Show that soulless footage.
You got it.
In the woods today, LA discovered a charming little landmark.
The Pet Sematary.
Place to bury our pets and remember them. Might seem scary, but it's not. Perfectly natural. Just like dying is natural.
The whole town's been using this place for generations. Folks make a kind of ritual out of it.
I have to admit, that was a little creepy. That part was a little
It's not some campfire story.
Saw these in the trees up there.
They're warnings. The local tribes carved them before they fled. They feared that place. There's something up there. Something that dates way back. Those woods belong to something else. Something
That cat was dead.
that brings things back.
Cheers.
I know what you're thinking of doing. But they don't come back the same.
Daddy.
What's going on?
Hug your daughter. I should never have shown you that place. Your child is not the only thing that will come back. The barrier is broken.
We have a second chance.
Sometimes dead is better.
Man.
that says everything. Sometimes dead is better.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I will say this. We don't need to go. Everybody knows what this movie's about. It's about, the family moves out to the Maine and blah, 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 blah. Things come back. It's bad, right? Don't try and resurrect the dead because this is a bad idea. But this is a waste of a John Lithgow performance because John Lithgow is a great actor.
He's a titan. He's
his
absolutely
performance. And I gotta say, there's the one redeeming quality of this movie is his performance. And he probably had the most difficult role to cover. because Fred Gwynn was great.
Yes.
And
Fred
John,
Gwynn was amazing.
Yes. And John Lithgow
that's
got
the
in
killer.
there. Go ahead.
I was saying
John
that
Lithgow got, damn it.
I was going to say Lithgow did what none of the other actors did. Now I can't fault the children because children,
Kids,
they do the thing, but everybody else was doing what it reminded me of was Superman Returns.
Yeah,
where everybody is doing their best impersonations of the original actors who played those roles.
Exactly.
So, and I was like, she was doing like some sort of version of Denise Crosby, which is weird. But Denise Crosby has a strength about her,
right?
That when she gets vulnerable, we're really pulled into it because otherwise, that's a strong woman.
Hey, wait a second. Time out from the game. I've got to say this.
Oh.
Skooma Cat just joined in the chat, and it is Skooma Cat's birthday.
Happy birthday, Skooma Cat.
Happy birthday.
All right.
We're all doing good. I hope your birthday was amazing.
Yeah. Back to this shit movie. Sorry, Skooma.
So that's what I saw is everybody trying to do their best impersonation of the previous actors.
Exactly.
John Lithgow was the only one who took who took the role of Judd. Like I would say, cemented by Fred Gwynn, who was amazing in that role.
Yep.
The whole aspect of the character, from the chain smoking old man who's friendly, knows the area, to like everything about him.
Spoke.
The old Maine accent. Oh man, he was amazing.
Yes.
And then Lithgow made it his own.
Right. He didn't try to be Fred Gwynn.
Right. He didn't try to be Fred Gwynn. He came and said, I've got these aspects, but I'm going to do this in, I'm going to bring my version of Judd. And it worked. I liked his version of Judd. It didn't remind me of Fred Gwynn, but it still embodied the character, which I thought that's the hallmark of a brilliant actor.
Exactly.
But everybody else, it was kind of like, no. And then the whole flip-flopping of the kids, was just unnecessary because it's supposed to be Gage. That's the point.
Right. Because
the whole thing, they're trying to push out the original, and it sucks trying to remake a legend. I don't think there's any damn point to it most of the time, but they just jammed so much into this trying to make it better that it didn't feel cold-blooded. The original movie, that once you get to a certain point in it, it feels cold-blooded from beginning to end. There's not a lot of story interlaced into it as far as mythology. These evil things have come back. They want to multiply. They want to kill you. And it had a very lonely feeling to it because there's a lot more darkness in that too. A lot more happening at night. This one, they tried to shoehorn every damn thing they could into it, and it killed it. They jammed in Vision, and I'll go ahead and say it, the Wendigo, which had no real relation, didn't contribute.
But it does. It does. The original Pet Sematary story is about an area of Maine that was once where the Mi'kmaq Indians lived. And then that land, they left it and they warded people off from it and tried to make sure nobody could get there because the land itself had become infected. That their old burial ground, things started coming back. So the Mi'kmaq Indians, they basically abandoned the area and then warded it off from anybody ever going there. So anybody that goes there, because the land is sour, that whole kind of thing. So that was, now in the original movie, they never addressed the Wendigo. They just you basically bury stuff there and it comes back and it's a zombie is pretty much what it is. But it was the Wendigo spirit that was doing these things in the book. That's what's alluded to, was it was the Wendigo. This movie tried to be a more faithful adaptation of the book without just relying on the zombie trope. This is why they keep, they still retain their agency and they want to make more zombies, which is what happens at the end. Because this ending was far bleaker. I mean, it tried to be. I thought the original ending was way darker than this one was, because this one was just a soulless copy of the previous one.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
And I felt it because the little kid, because Gage, you identify with losing a child at that age, the fact that innocence of that level of a toddler could be corrupted in this sense to like pure psychopathy or like directed sociopathy. It's just,
that
was terrifying.
That is what made Pet Sematary that much more terrifying, the original, because it was, what is his name? What was his name?
Mika Hughes.
Mika Hughes, yeah.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
He was such a cute little kid, and he had these little cheeks and a blonde hair, and he had a little voice of his. And then, of course, obviously using manipulation. It's not really him giving these lines at the end of the movie where he's talking about how he played with mommy and whatever. But it's just, you see that face when you hear those words, and that's like, holy shit, this is a fucking 3-year-old that just bit the face off of Fred Gwynn.
Oh, bit his throat out. Yeah. After hacking him up with a scalpel.
Yeah.
Well, and you are terrified of him, and the fact that he's a kid and he delivers the lines kind of flat actually works, because this is just kind of a whole-blooded killing machine. But at the same time, you've got that face, and when he goes to be pitiful, you really feel that because you've got a face of a child. And this one, I mean, you got a zombie kid walking.
Yeah. Right. That's what gets me is that even after all this, like that's what the remake failed to capitalize on the real emotional notes of what was going on with Lewis and his family, what was going on between him and his wife's trauma was, Zelda was arguably one of the most terrifying things of the original film. And, this we'll get you, the whole kind of, it was just, that still creeps me the shit out.
Yeah.
But in this one, instead of going for character development, because we had character development with Lewis, we had character development with his wife, we had character development with the kids, with Gage, and with Ellie, thank you, and dog, even with the parents, because we see Lewis's interactions with the parents. The parents don't like him, and they never approved of him, and now their grandson is dead. And then you've got Fred Gwynn's character who, has all this, and then it's just, the whole thing is a snowball rolling downhill, and it's just getting worse and worse. And then, of course, on top of that, Gage comes back, slaughters his mother, brutally slaughters his mother, slaughters Judd, and then that moment when he finally is able to get a hold of the kid and inject him, and then that your heart still goes out to it.
Yeah, that was that's what brought not just depth but multiple layers. There was a whole huge arc there. You know what I mean? Losing your child, dealing with that grief, then getting your child back, and then having to do something to finally let go. Right. So if you look at this like outside of the story itself, look at what this movie's talking about. The movie's talking about how you deal with trauma, how you deal with grief, and how you can finally learn how to say goodbye and let go to something you're not supposed to have. And you look at the original film from that, this remake lost all of that.
Well, you could empathize with him originally. You can't empathize with somebody that's dead, and it's hard to empathize with Gage in the newer one. I mean, he's a child. Feel for him, but you don't feel his part.
I think it was overwhelmed by some unneeded push to be edgy, to try and they ramped up the kind of visual aspect. So they make the visuals all the more grotesque, or they try to put it in a particular light. And I just think when you lose yourself in trying to ramp up the visual appeal because the character development is not there and the actors aren't really, most of your cast is not really flexing what they've got. And then of course, on top of that, that's why I've always said this was an absolutely soulless remake that pretty much just was a carbon copy that tried to ramp up the grotesque and the horror factor so they didn't have to worry about all of that, the heavy lifting of selling characters, of selling ordinary everyday characters with ordinary everyday dramas that are now put in extraordinary, inexplicable situations that are horrific, and then they have to deal with it. That's the beauty of that, huh?
Which is King's strength.
Yes, that is what King does. He takes ordinary, everyday people and puts them in extraordinary situations, and then and then basically, I take ordinary, everyday people, then I turn the lights off and I let the monsters loose on them, and I see what happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing beauty. Right, exactly. You're exactly right. That's the beauty of Stephen King's stories, is that it's not about the monster. That's just the agent of change. It's about the people.
Right.
Always been about the people, how they react in these situations. It's always been a looking glass on the human condition. And Pet Sematary, hang on a second, the Pet Sematary remake completely ignores that and just, well, no, we want to focus on the grotesque, we want to focus on the horror,
right?
The
and people,
mythology and the lore.
yeah,
Of the people.
nobody cares.
And one thing that really kind of aggravated me about the difference between these two things, and I don't know why. Maybe it's a change in mentalities of how people are viewed or how the character archetypes are viewed. I'm not 100% sure. But for some, maybe it's just the acting. Maybe it's just that actor, is the problem. And the act, and that is that the original Lewis Creed. And for the life of me, I cannot believe I am.
Oh yeah, I can't remember his name either.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to. I want to make sure I give him credit where credit is due. The original. Okay, so Dale Midkiff. Dale Midkiff was the original Lewis Creed. And then Jason, what's his name in the new one?
The new one? Oh yeah, it's Jason Clark.
Jason Clark in the new one. I pretty much put him out of my mind because I keep seeing him as like the new John Connor when that was just terrible shit.
Oh
that was
yeah,
just awful.
Yeah.
So I pretty much put him out of my mind. So Jason Clark and Dale Midkiff. Dale Midkiff sold that arc, the arc of like, I brought church back. Then my son dies. Then out of desperation and grief, I bring my son back. And then I try to do the same thing with my wife. The definition of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Right.
But he sold that arc. That arc is sold on trauma. That is trauma-induced psychopathy. The man is losing his mind because of the traumas that are being presented to him in his face. So ostensibly, that's what the mind does when faced with like these horrors. Is it breaks down. Exactly. I did not get that from Jason Clark. What I got was he was doing this out of pure fucking hubris.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost to a level of toxic that I was like, I can control this because I am in charge and I am, I can do this. And that the whole thing, like him when he screams out there and he's like, like I'm the one in charge. Like, no, my friend, that's not the story.
Right.
Well, they put it in the plot line, the drive to draw him back. They had to because they could not get that human element, like you said, in that. So they had to keep saying, well, it has an effect on you. It has an effect on you. Pulls you back because there was no other reason why you could see why this guy would go back.
Well, but they successfully did it in the 1989 version. In the 1989 version, I was with Lewis every step of the way. Yeah. The trauma of losing his youngest child. I mean, that's enough to destroy. That's enough to destroy families. Yeah. That's enough to just rend you of your sanity. And I could see that. And in his desperation, Church was old and was hit by a car, and he was like, okay, he was dead too long, and so we brought it back. So he came back, but it would. But with Gage, he's young, he's a child. It couldn't possibly be that bad. So he justifies it in his own like deteriorating sanity.
And he continues to justify it.
And continues to justify it. But even then, when the child comes back, he knows something is wrong. And then all of a sudden, then he justifies it again with his wife, saying she's only been dead a short while. It doesn't work that way. So, and the ghosts are telling you, don't do this.
Don't do it, guy. Yeah.
Well, he made you feel it. I mean, to your point, like they didn't have to work anything in the plot line about it, drawing you back and this and that. And that's kind of what I was speaking to with. Yeah, it's great they introduced stuff in the book, but then they didn't elaborate. So it didn't really have a feeling of belonging. As far as the visions go, you didn't need anything more than Pascal. That's why he was in the first one. He did a great job. With the Wendigo, they didn't elaborate fully upon it. It just feels like it's sticking around and they threw it in as a buzzword.
That's probably why it was left out of the original. I have no doubt that's most likely why who is it? Sorry, that's why Mary Lambert, who is a magnificent director, that's probably why Mary Lambert left it out because it was superfluous. We don't actually need it. The story is about people coming back and coming back wrong. So that's it.
That feeds back to what we were talking about earlier with the stuff from It is King books have a ton of backstory to them. Not only the thoughts the characters are having that are hard to include, but the mythology. And you have to be very careful about what you include and what you don't, because if you include stuff that you're not willing to take it all the way and explain it, it just feels like it was thrown in the bucket for the hell of it.
Right.
And that's all over this movie.
Yep. Absolutely. Now that we are done beating this movie to death,
Well, Barry,
Well,
bring
I
it
did
in
want to
now.
ask you guys a quick question. I wanted to ask you a quick question before we jump on to the CTA.
And
something that I just want to get your guys'
buried it
opinion
and
on.
brought it back to life.
I did.
Yeah.
I brought it back. And guess what? It's going to come back. But first, before we do that, I want to say hi. We had a couple of people jump in. And the Jord says in the house. Good to see you. And the Jord, Dave Cernick, I see you lurking back there in the chat. Good to have you here. Thank you so much. And I think I saw, did I see somebody new? And Beaver C. Good to see you, Beaver C. Oh, I think Beaver C was here. But I think I got everybody. Yeah, I just want to make sure I said hi to to what?
Skid Scratcher.
Oh, and Skid Scratcher. That was it. Skid Scratcher. Good to see you. Howdy, howdy. But the one thing I want to ask you. Okay, so obviously, I mean, I have a problem with this. This wasn't like The Mist, where The Mist fundamentally changed the end of the book, and it's got a visceral response for me, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. Even if you change the material, if it's still a gut punch, solid. I'm still down for it. I will still watch a remake of The Mist and still watch the ending and still be like, oh, punch you in the face. That whole kind of thing. But that's good. This one, completely soulless fucking remake. I'm going to be straight up honest. It pissed me off, not in a good sense. It was like, why? The choices. What the hell is going on here? Our soulless remakes, which I think we are getting more and more, or even soulless sequels, tacking onto like fucking, I'm sorry, the new Terminator films. Completely fucking soulless, unnecessary, and just embarrassments. This was an embarrassment. Would this literally be the death? Will reliance upon this be the death of this genre?
I think that right now I don't want to call it a renaissance because you've got all these people that are calling it post-horror movies, or a lot of the newer movies are really great. But I think we're finally there's a normality to horror. The people who grew up with it love it, and it's getting its attention. So we're gonna get some fodder with the really great stuff, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. And remakes, you might get a good remake here or there, but broadly speaking, they're not good. And I don't think it's gonna kill us. I don't think it's cost. I think it's a side effect. They'll come along, they'll fall off.
And they'll just fall off and just be relegated to history?
Yeah, people roast the turd like we just did and then move on.
Gotcha.
At worst, they go back and watch the original.
Right. It's the kind of the pendulum, the way it works. It comes and goes.
Well, I found, that's pretty much because I see stuff like this and I see more and more of them coming along, and it just aggravates the piss out of me. And I think it dilutes the genre. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the intelligence of the audience, disrespectful to the genre in and of itself, and of course to the original source material. And if it's one thing, horror is a subculture. Horror is a very tight knit, very welcoming subculture.
Well, see, but that's the beauty part about movies like this. In such a tight knit subculture, it can bring people together who normally would disagree about whatever. You're like, well, I like horror film, but I can't do Midsommar type horror because that's just too, they're trying to be too highbrow, because that even in the sub genre or the subculture of horror, there's still some cliques there.
True.
Movies like this are universally hated amongst all of them, so it's something to kind of help bring that horror community together.
Makes sense. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I can see that, definitely. It's kind of like what Jordan says. It triggers a similar response as the shot-for-shot Psycho remake. It just turns the audience off, especially when dealing with such groundbreaking movies as the ones we're discussing.
Right.
Agreed.
And the thing about the Psycho remake is that Vince Vaughn was great.
Yeah.
He was really good, but it was a shot-for-shot remake of a movie.
I like he kind of made it his own a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a carbon copy of Anthony Perkins.
Right. I think people tend to forget how good of an actor Vince Vaughn is. Because
the downside,
silliness. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the downside to him doing that is just that he was so good at it that you're kind of afraid of him from the start. Which, if you know anything about Psycho, you're gonna be anyway. Whereas Anthony Perkins was absolutely charming up until it started to go down.
Up until he wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Cool. I wanted to hear what you guys thought about that.
Yeah. Well, now that we have stuck this in the neck with the poison serum, no fair.
Absolutely fair. Go to hell where you belong.
You cut half my wife's face off. It's fair, my friend.
Fair, my friend.
You're getting off easy.
Should tie you up and chop off your little fingers.
Little fuckers flying around like his supernatural powers. Get off me.
Oh man. All right. So what I want to know is, seeing as how this is a Stephen King film and it says our Stephen King story remake, what King film deserves a remake? There are a lot of them that have been done that we didn't need. Like we didn't need this one. I don't think we need Christine. I don't think we need a remake of Christine, but it's happening. Whatever. Yeah. I want to know. Let us know in the comments, side chat, or at weekinhorror@gmail.net. Let me or .com. Let me know.
She says, "What? I loaded this into the trebuchet."
Yeah.
Got some. Travis Brown says a remake of Thinner. Angel Rivera says a remake of Needful Things. Although I don't know, Max von Sydow was.
That's gonna be tough to do.
He pretty much laid it down right there.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to do.
A remake of Langoliers from Surf. Surf is a remake of The Langoliers.
The only thing that Langoliers really would need would be a update to the CGI monsters.
That's true.
Outside of that, I thought everybody was really good in that.
Tony Regime says Running Man.
You mean you didn't like Arnold? I
hope you save room for my fist, because I'm going to put it punch it through your stomach and bring out your goddamn spine. He just with such zeal, just I'm a fucking Arnold.
I think there was a time in the late 80s where people like writers that they knew they were writing an Arnold Schwarzenegger film said, I wonder what we could put in here that he'll move. I wonder what we can make him say. Let's push the envelope and find out exactly what he will say.
What was it? You remember how I told you? Remember how I said I'd kill you last? I lied. It was great. Let me see here. I have to agree here. Wrote it no last name says Maximum Overdrive.
That one could use a remake.
I want to see a remake of Maximum Overdrive. I really do.
Yeah.
Oh, and Tony Regime says,
point.
Go ahead.
Is there anything really good to redeem about Maximum Overdrive?
The problem is it was based on trucks.
Yeah.
And trucks had an interesting premise, and I think would work a lot better if it was more faithful to the story. Just like Tony Regime says, Lawnmower Man deserves a faithful remake.
But the problem with the Lawnmower Man is that, reading the actual story, the short story from Lawnmower Man there's nothing really
It's
there.
purely visual, which sounds weird when you're talking about something done in text, but I could see it as part of a series, a really kind of weird, surreal episode, but as a standalone, it doesn't have any chance.
Jinju says Tommy Knockers on a beachfront community. That could be interesting.
That'd be kind of cool.
And then the George says Sleepwalkers. LOL, I joke.
Well, I wouldn't hate a Sleepwalkers remake as long as they didn't use those stupid cat monster looking things. It's terrible. The whole banging mommy thing. I was like, come on, what the
Oh, Schwarzenegger, yeah, that's right. When he's like, funk, stick around. Let off some steam, Bennett.
Yep. And the George said, put the cookie down.
Put the cookie down. You eat other people's lunches? Stop it.
Oh, man.
Put it back.
Take the toy back to the carpet. I'm not a policeman. I'm a princess.
Take the toy back to the carpet. I'm not a policeman. I'm a princess.
That little girl is so good at her role.
Take it back.
Oh, I swear, 90s child stars are the best.
Yep. Okay.
She was
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Our mom says that our dad is a real sex machine.
And there's Mika Hughes in there again.
Yep. Boys have a penis. Girls have a vagina.
Ronan last name says we need a Creepshow anthology series. Well, lucky for you, Shudder has brought back Creepshow, and that series is currently running over there on Shudder. I think it's like in its 3rd season. But you have it, and legitimate remake or legitimate adaptations of a lot of Stephen King material.
Yeah, it's good.
AMC's got it too, because AMC has access to almost everything Shudder does, except the nerdy stuff like the documentaries, which I gotta have.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, JL. Let's talk about your history. I mean,
I know, right? It's like my freaking backstory. So this next one, we're probably gonna get off the ground. We're finally going to get off the ground, and we're going to get into some better territory because I can, for all of its schlock and all of its exploitation, this 1982 film released April 7th, 1982. We have Basket Case, which is demonstrably better than the movies that we just talked about. Let's check out the trailer.
What is the secret Dwayne is hiding in the basket?
What's in the basket?
Some of the tenants claim to have heard noises coming from this room, like someone on a rampage.
What's in the basket?
You're that kid Needleman warned me about, the Bradley boy, the freak we separated.
I know an awful lot of guys, Dwayne. But you're different. What's in the basket?
What's in the basket?
What's in the basket?
My brother.
Open it, if you dare. Basket case.
It's the original. What's in the box?
I kept on saying, "What is in the fucking basket?"
I feel like you missed an opportunity there.
Definitely missed an opportunity. Put the lotion in the fucking basket. So directed and written by Frank Henenlotter, starring Kevin Van Hentenryck, Terry Susan Smith, and Beverly Bonner. The story follows how to break this thing down. So the story follows the character Dwayne, who is the good-looking dude that you saw in there, who is pretty much, making his way through seedy downtown New York with this giant basket that he carries with him that contains his parasitic twin that was removed from removed from him in when he was a child, but the thing survived. So he keeps it in this basket, and its name is Belial, and of course, Belial also has needs and desires, and obviously too, because Eugene is not here, shit gets majorly fucking real. So it's absolutely a horror film, but to hear Frankenlotter talk about it, he prefers it more as an exploitation film because Henenlotter, in his own words, doesn't like to be called a horror director, even though it's pretty much what he does.
He does. Yeah.
He's very much about exploitation. In his eyes, exploitation has a particular attitude to it, and that's what he likes to encompass. And just it's a bit grittier, it's a bit darker, it has kind of a meaner, leaner attitude, and it's not as, I would say, it's not as like it doesn't have the commentary that horror usually does.
The thing, so I was watching it and it felt like, because the whole thing's very surreal and strange, and these characters are all very odd, but you don't dislike them. They're kind of weird. They even do some annoying things. You don't dislike them, and he does a good job of twisting that till it can be funny, it can be a little bit heartwarming, or it can be really fucking disturbing. But I'm thinking the whole time, like, this feels almost John Waters, and it turns out this premiered alongside Pink Flamingos, and I'm like, they're right there together.
Uh-oh, you got his Google.
And I beat you to a point, and was it? Did I get something twisted?
No. Predominantly, I like this particular one. Basket Case is a lot of fun, and I think showcases the kind of like the mad genius of Frank Henenlotter and what he was ostensibly what he was trying to do within the genre. And I dug it because he saw the production value, I want to call it, of New York and where he shot it, and how he kind of showcase the darkness, the grittiness, the griminess of not only the seedy underbelly, not only of New York, but also of the wide variety the smorgasbord of characters that you can find down there. This Mario Brothers looking cat, and these, and typically this idea that, the vast majority of New Yorkers are assholes, and they don't mind being referred to as such because they're New Yorkers, and that's the way it is. But ultimately, there's a lot of love. There's love underneath all of that. There's love and camaraderie and family underneath all of that, under that grimy, gritty veneer. And I think he captures that, the attitude of 70s and 80s New York City and what it was like coming up in the boroughs. And I just like that he really encompasses it and embraces it for what it is. He embraces the dark and grossness and says, this is a part of us as much as anything else. And then says, but there's something good underneath it, which I really, really like.
Yeah, I didn't like it because it was a guy carrying around his parasitic twin who kept killing people.
Do you know that was Henenlotter's hands in the fake hands that would go toward, like, it was reaching towards people? Henenlotter had those gloves on so that he'd be like, so he could do it himself. Because the puppet itself, the puppet itself of Belial is absolutely hilarious, and I like that they improved upon it later on because this is a trilogy, and they get better and better and better as as the series progresses. Then of course Belial finds a mate and then has kids, and it's fucking weird.
Just weird, yeah. Where's his penis?
That's that whole. Given the latter effects, what happens? I don't want to know what's going on in the undercarriage, man. The whole hands in the puppet thing, that's old Dario Argento, when he did his murder scenes, it was always his hand in the glove with a knife. Seems to be a director's thing. But yeah, the whole stop motion thing, nowadays people are probably gonna be like, oh, that's cheesy or whatever. No, that was a choice to do they used a lot of different methods. Some of them was the puppet attached, some of them they didn't show what was operating, or somebody was operating and they didn't show that, and some of them they did the full stop motion of him moving around. That was a conscious choice to do that for the way it looked and the way it would be perceived, which I liked. I think it added to the film. If you would have done anything else on, out of budget, it would have felt out of place.
I think it works. That's one thing I like about the 80s, early 90s stuff is the fact that they're not reliant on CGI, practical effects. Even when you're talking about like stop motion, that's still something that is tangibly real. You know what I mean? I could go pick up, the Sinbad monsters. I can go hold those if I wanted to. I mean, Harryhausen would probably come from the grave and like slap them out of my hand, like put those down. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you still see, and you guys have interviewed effects artists and stuff. The biggest demand for practicals still in the horror sector, and it's because we love it. Like, nearly demand it, and if you don't include some of it, we're probably going to shit on your film at least a
lot. Yeah, you're right.
And the George says the basket case franchise jumped the shark in the first movie and spent 3 movies jumping shark after shark. And you got to admit, it's an entertaining spectacle from start to finish.
Sure.
And I agree. I think it had already jumped the shark once Henenlotter put it on paper. It was already done. There were no more sharks to jump once this thing got way ahead of the curve. But I love it because that's what I think. It's a great display of Henenlotter's mind, and I like the zaniness, the craziness, and the heart that's underneath all of it. I love the concept. It's this whole kind of
road and no last name.
Oh, that's
terrible.
Too soon.
Terrible.
I don't know if I can say that.
Really funny.
But I thoroughly enjoy this. It's definitely shock. It's definitely schlock and full of caricatures they're actually well acted and well. I mean, I enjoyed all of it from I enjoyed all 3 of them for what they are, because they don't strive to be anything more than what they are, and that is just the exploitative, the kind of exploitative, sexploitative, violent, gory, films that they try to be, and you just see it for the shock value, which is why Henenlotter prefers to be called an exploitation director instead of a horror director. But there's a fine line between horror and exploitation. And maybe in Henenlotter's own words, it does just come down to the attitude, but there might be something more to that.
Well, there's the whole, and you see it with everything. Horror is one of those that can be attached to anything. I
Right.
mean, it's the elements of execution really rather than genre, and when you get deep enough into it, it develops as genre. So it just depends on how far you go with this, and I would say that Henenlotter, if you take and you look down his resume at all his movies, you're gonna see an exploitation director, but when you stop at certain movies, it's gonna be a horror movie. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Basket Case trilogy, Brain Damage in '88, Frankenhooker, obviously, and of course, Bad Biology. Bad Biology was absolutely a freaking horror movie, and it was after Bad Biology in 2008 that he started doing documentaries. But then because he was on hiatus, after Basket Case 3, he took a long hiatus. I think it was like 17 years. He didn't do much of anything, and then of course he came out with Bad Biology, which was a super graphic set. I mean, there's a lot of sex. There's a lot of like really gross. I don't want to get too much into it, but and it was all practical effects, which made it even worse. But it still had that same thing, the heart buried underneath it. And of course, that was. I mean, I can't think of any of stuff. They're horror. I mean, they're exploitation films and somewhat sexploitation, but they're definitely horror films on top of it. And like you said, it can be kind of slapped on. But these would foremost, you've got violence, you've got gore, you've got disgusting, usually, or gross-looking monsters.
Mhm.
You've got widespread carnage, and you got that. But then you just add in just enough TNA, and you portray your characters in a particularly, I would say, endearing but gruesome light. Particularly mean people with where everybody's kind of a mean person with a heart of gold. And you can kind of call it exploitative, but honestly, I've always interpreted it as horror films with just a whole lot of TNA.
I thought horror films had a whole lot of TNA.
But they don't necessarily
certain
have
ones.
to. But that's what I think. That's why I can see where Henenlotter's coming, where it's pretty much comes down to attitude, where it's all about it's all about objectifying people. It's all about stereotypes. It's all about caricatures, and everybody's like a two-dimensional version of people we see every day.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of a meanness to it.
But I gotta call bullshit on that whole it's not horror thing that he's trying to go for, because if I make a movie that has Bruce Willis in it, and there's a bunch of explosions and gunfights and car chase scenes and fucking helicopters and all this shit, and I say, no, it's not an action film, it's an exploitation film because there's a lot of TNA in it. Go get fucked. It's an action film, right?
Well, and there are other references in this realm too, because if you go back and you look at Blackula, they're blaxploitation films. They knew the market that they're exploiting, but Blackula was a horror film, and it's categorized as such. And I mean, I get what he's saying, where he's making exploitation films, and that's going to be his main vein. But on these, if you're sorting them in the shelf, you're not going to find an exploitation section. You're going to find a horror section. If it's funnier, it's going to land in comedy. And it's, we say horror can be attached to anything, so can exploitation. Are you going to include some blood and violence? Are you going to include some TNA? Well, those are draws for the movie, but they're not the primary premise of the movie.
I think you could. I would say that probably when they were going through the video nasties craze with movies like Maniac and along those lines, you could probably say that it was the ones that had that air of exploitation would wind up being pulled by the censor. Right. Whereas if it was just straight horror, or maybe even a horror comedy or a horror thriller, where it had elements of both subgenres, then you could kind of get it past the censor because it wasn't much. But once you get into the where it's gratuitous, then the censors would. So I think that would be a good line of demarcation. Would this fall into the video nasty category, where the censor's like, ooh, pearl clutching bullshit, because we can't let the public see such atrocities. But I think that might be a line of demarcation that you could draw between the two. But it's fine. It's a fine line, and I think it also the subjectivity of, I guess, the current generation plays into it as well. What they consider exploitation, especially sexploitation or blaxploitation, or I think I can't remember the term for Latino exploitation. That's a damn good question, Angel. Angel Rivera, was Humanoids from the Deep exploitation?
I think there were elements of exploitation in it,
because of all the gratuitous fish sex.
Right. But I mean, ultimately, it was still highly rooted in horror.
Especially as gory and gross as it was, and then of course, fish, monster sex, weird.
I was like, fuck, man.
Unless you're Japanese, and then you pay extra.
Unless it's Japanese, and then you pay extra. Whatever.
Oh yeah.
Ginger says, boobs are atrocities? Someone please slap those censors. Right. You can show as much violence as you want, just don't show a nipple. And show a nipple, and man, we are off on the wrong track.
Man, yeah.
Most people are going to have sex in their life. Most people aren't going to kill somebody. But which one are we going to allow you to portray?
Which one are we going to allow our 13-year-olds to look at?
So we digress on this one, and Basket Case is a lot of fun, and I think is the start of a really decent trilogy, and it just gets weirder and weirder as it goes along. Has some great moments. I love the scene in part 3 when Belial turned the dude's head around like that. It's just some great practical visuals throughout the entire trilogy. Definitely give it a shot if you get a chance. But we've really taken a big dive into Frank Henenlotter and the mind behind this madness, and just the kind of like unsung brilliance, because really, deep horror fans who can appreciate all aspects and all subgenres that get attached to it, to the genre itself, can really, I think, really appreciate it. And I was surprised how many people had never even heard of the film before this, unless they were like, as old as I was. They're in their like late 30s and 40s and 50s. So, I remember when that came out. It was wild, blah, blah, blah. But most kids today is like, what? They have no concept that these things exist. So I want to ask for those who are familiar with this filmography, and we've been through a bunch of it, what is your favorite, or what would you say is the best Frank Henenlotter film? Out of everything he's given, I know what I'm expecting to hear from here, but let us know in the comments below, or in the live chat, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com what you think is the best Frank Henenlotter film. And I think that man needs to get back to work. He needs to come back. He really does.
He tried, but they won't let him. He won't sell out to the process.
Right.
Right. We have Basket Case to thank for films like The Society.
Oh yeah, from like Brian Yuzna, Stuart Gordon's work, a number of Cronenberg.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, all these directors that push the envelope, people call their work shit, and it's only deserves lower viewing stuff. But them pushing the envelope is what makes room for more modern films to actually venture a little further. Without them, we'd still be back in the Hays Code.
Yeah, you've got to get these guys that will make a film with a dude who's literally an ass face. You know what I mean? to get these other people like, oh man, I'm not going to put an ass face on the screen, but what I am going to do is I am going to put this on the screen.
Is that a reference to Preacher?
No, well,
because there's a character named Assface in Preacher.
Yeah.
No. This is a reference to Society.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it'll be when he's like coming through. Yeah, the back end. That's right. Yeah. I thought that was how flat earthers were born.
Well, you're not wrong.
That's the kind of laugh I love from Aaron. That's when I know I really got it, because I love that Aaron's kind of subdued. So when you hear him go, oh, I scored a zinger on that one. I absolutely did.
If I laugh any louder, I'll blow out the damn microphone.
Hey, what's up, Chris Durham Music Channel? Good to see you. We are talking about the movie Basket Case currently. So good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And we got some good love. We got Travis Brown says Brain Damage. So really excellent one. Fantastic. And the George said, obviously, Basket Case. It's one of his faves. He's got some good ones. I really like Frankenhooker.
Oh, yeah. I love Frankenhooker. Want a date?
Super fun stuff. Absolutely. All right. Well, we've got one more in the docket. What do we got, Aaron? Bring it home.
All right. So April 9th, 1990.
We're gonna end on an up note. We really are.
Yeah. a surprising up note for me. I wasn't expecting it. It's pretty good. All right. April 9th, 1990. Grave Secrets, also known as Secret Screams. Over to you, JL.
This is Homestead House. I run it as a bed and breakfast.
Creepy children's music always does it for me.
First there were noises. Somebody breathing. Weird
Then it was
creaks.
bad acting.
Go on.
And now,
Terrible hairdo.
almost every night, I hear clunky footsteps in a hall outside my room.
Man, that moon was super big that night. Okay.
Guess that this is an up note.
Okay, it is an up note, and I know
Well,
from the trailer. This is
comparatively
the
speaking, you're
problem.
true, that's true. Yeah.
This is the problem, and I think that the issue was, and I'll let Aaron break down with it, that I don't think you can't judge this movie by its trailer. The trailer was not cut well. That's what I think the issue is that the trailer.
It would be hard to cut for. It is a little more complicated than it comes off at first as far as plot twists and everything. And some of them do feel contrived, but let's do the... Oh, there we go. Sorry, a little technical error. So it's directed by Donald P. Borchers, premiere directorial debut. Written by Jeffrey Pullman and Lenore Wright, starring Paul LeMat, Renee, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Sutanjik, Lee Ving, and Olivia Barsh, with a horror icon, David Warner. Essentially, it is the story of a paranormal investigator and the lady who summons him to a bed and breakfast she has not yet opened, and the haunting that occurs in there. And it's contrary to what you would expect, where it's a bed and breakfast is haunted because it's a perfect location to it. It's the lady that's haunted. There's events that occurred within the house that relate to her, and you expect it to be completely B-movie, crap, plot twists and stuff like that, and it doesn't buy into any of it. It has some weaknesses, it has some technical flaws, but plot-wise, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, the story in there isn't terrible. It's definitely a mix of a couple of more popular films, but we can get to that here in a minute. But overall, I mean, I poke fun at this movie, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't something that was like, God, this fucking Supercroc shit.
It didn't hurt to watch. Like, I didn't want to stick a corkscrew in my leg just to distract me from the movie.
You didn't want to stab yourself just so you could feel again.
I'm pretty sure Aaron blew his foot off to get out of watching Supercroc.
I dug this one. It reminded me quite a bit of the made-for-TV vampire movie that we watched and we talked about, and that had I can't remember his name, but he was Father Karras in The Exorcist. Yeah. And so that one, that was a made-for-TV vampire film where none of the gore, none of the blood, none of that. It was all character-driven and all like basically really great like location settings for high production value, but none of the stuff that you typically associate with horror. But it was definitely a horror movie and was really good because it was good storytelling. It was just a great vampire story, and I like this one because this is a really good ghost story. And yeah, it does take some elements from other films. This came out in 1990, and you could definitely, when you watch it, be like, oh, they kind of like pulled that idea, this idea. You see a bit of Ghostbusters in there, a bit of Exorcist, Poltergeist, so on and so forth. But I liked it because it wasn't a copy of any of these. It used those ideas and kind of put them together in its own really well put together story. And in 1990, it addressed a topic that typically wasn't addressed addressed in films at the time, especially
people still
ones
hesitate on it now,
right? And the idea of what the circumstances behind her pregnancy and what was done with the child after the fact. So there's a lot of like dark stuff that is within this story that it doesn't need the gore and blood and over the top shenanigans to really sell. Not to mention the acting is decent. That's why I don't think the trailer is not cut very well. But it would be hard to cut a good trailer off this movie because it's a slow burn, and the moments that are like the climactic moments are all pretty brief, but they're like right there in your face, and then they're drawn out. Trying to cut a trailer out of that is just really, really hard. And so I dug what they did with it, and I liked that. I was like, I watched this like, this thing's not gonna be very good. Then I was pleasantly surprised. So, and I dug this one. It was just all around good storytelling.
That's where you have to start. Okay, any budding filmmakers out there, if you don't have a good story, your movie's just not going to be good.
And and the production, I would say the production level, and of course the locations that they shot at. I thought it was just everything about it was just solid.
The thing about this is because the story is solid, it allows you to kind of overlook the cheesiness of the special effects, because some of the special effects are kind of cheesy, right?
Yeah, the kind of like animation green, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
right. I mean, even for the 90s. But the story allows you to kind of we can forgive it because it's a good story, and then the scares in it were pretty solid. I was like, oh my god, I'm so scared of this movie, but they were solid. Like it wasn't over reliance on one type of this or jump scare that, or you know what I mean. It was kind of a good amalgamation of everything: psychological horror, physical horror, all that shit. So this movie was able to pull off just a solid watch with most people who over criticize. Not going to point fingers at myself, but the fact that this is most definitely The Exorcist meets Poltergeist.
Absolutely. And that's what I got. They 1982 Ghostbusters came out, or was 84? Sorry, 84. 84 Ghostbusters came out. And you definitely have the Venkman trope of the parapsychologist who is, gives lectures at colleges, never actually encountered anything supernatural. It's always been, that's why everybody thinks he's a quack. And he's like about to lose his position I think he was going to lose his position at the school because just, all of his stuff that was published was all pseudoscience and you couldn't be any support.
Right.
So you got the kind of Venkman trap, but no comedy. Then you've got the Exorcist trope, whereas the owner, the proprietor of the bed and breakfast, she's the one that's actually haunted instead of the house. And then, of course, the poltergeist aspect, which is like there's a lot of stuff where, things are going around the house and weird things are happening. And it's done in an almost novel and a somewhat sinister and sometimes threatening way, but it's a slow build. Just like Poltergeist was a slow build.
Right.
And that's where because it's not flashy, it's not in your face, it's not, like big, like that's why this wasn't a major studio production. This was a directorial debut, and it got its life on VHS, which I think this is one of the reasons that this film, the small little gem that it is one of the hallmarks of why the VHS genre, I guess the VHS era, was so excellent. I got to and it was cool because I got to go back and find it on VHS and realize, it was almost a nostalgic thing, bringing me back in that era. That was I guess the unsung era of VHS and how, I guess, ubiquitous it became and how easy it became to like put things on VHS and direct to VHS is the reason why so many of these movies, got life. Because if they didn't, there's no streaming service back then.
Yeah, right.
There's no internet, so we need something.
Yeah,
and we needed a cheap way to produce stuff and get it distributed to people.
Right.
And VHS was our solution to that.
Exactly. That was the original streaming service, or
right.
The direct to video. That was, I mean, I can still remember I don't think it was a bargain bin, but it was definitely there was a place, that you could go in the store to find these types of movies that nobody else was looking at. Same thing when you went to your local Blockbuster or home video rental. You could find these movies kind of off center, and it was always kind of cool to visit these aisles and look at these things to find those hidden gems.
Well, is there new release spares because they would take and get in a bulk, and then they would keep 2 to 3 copies at most, and you would grab the extras. Well, if they weren't as in high demand, they kept one copy. You grab the other one, pop it into your collection. And the VHS, the nice thing about it is it was almost a happy medium of distribution and filtration because it's easier now to make a film, and that's great for that's great for guys like you who are going to have a better chance of getting stuff out there. Digital has worked miracles, but you've also got a lot of people that do not care about the production. The people that made this, they knew they were working on a budget, but they were wise about how they spent it. Everybody that was on board cared about it, and you had a better chance of that filtration process keeping the absolute crap out of the market back then. So you had a better chance of scoring at least decent film. Whereas now, I mean, if you just go in and you were to just pick a random horror movie out of the whole list of them without worrying about ratings or anything, like you did when you went to the rental store, chances are you're drawing a dud. You're stuck with it for 3 to 5 days back then, which sucked because your parents wouldn't do anything else.
And I thoroughly enjoyed what David Warner brought to this, as you mentioned, horror icon David Warner's character actor who's just been going strong. I mean, I know he's had a long storied career. I remember first seeing him in The Omen, and then recently we got to talk about a movie that he was in that was an anthology. Do you remember, Johnny? Do you remember the anthology that we talked about? It had the 4 stories that centered around the store that was run by Peter Cushing.
Is it the Lovecraft based one?
No. It was the anthology of films that Peter Cushing ran. The story kind of is I think we think was the inspiration behind Stephen King's Needful Things. It was like 1976.
I can't remember. Yeah, it's killing me, and I can't remember the name of it.
From Beyond the Grave.
There it is.
Yeah, sorry about that. So From Beyond the Grave. What I got off of this one, and David Warner was in the first one of that. What I really dug about this one is that what holds up for me is quality on VHS. Nowadays with digital and DVDs, Blu-rays, 4K, everything is sharp, it's crystal clear, and you can see it's so much detail. I like what the age of VHS and the quality of film. And then, of course, there is a bit of a loss when you transfer to VHS. So I liked what VHS did for the horror genre. I like that gritty kind of look. I like that kind of like worn, sometimes slightly blown out.
It adds that aesthetic to it, right?
Right, there's an aesthetic to it.
Atmosphere and kind of puts you in the mood, Nowadays, film grain is cool in horror films. They want to go back and add it in digitally.
And that's why this movie made me really appreciate the movies that I grew up with. And I never would have seen if it were not for VHS. And that's what I really, really dug it. A high def, I think, works in some ways, but ultimately, I think kind of does a disservice to some of us older, more analog-minded horror fans. This is what we grew up with. So there was a real strong feeling of nostalgia going back and seeing this. And not only seeing that, but seeing actors act. And that's what you've got to have a character-driven story. When you don't have access to those kind of effects and to really blow it up, and all you guys are, we can do a little bit of a green misty thing that's gonna, go away. They're very Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So trying with the lights coming out of it like that. I was you watch Hellraiser, you're like, oh, Pinhead's fucking scary. The Cenobites are terrifying. Oh shit, monsters coming out like that. What is this goofy light shoot out of this shit? It's like the walls are bleeding and shit, and then all of a sudden, it's like it's a little. You're kind of like, what?
Oh, but for us, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
But for us, it was like, holy shit. And Rodin name says, could it be a subgenre of like low res horror? And I do like, I would say low res horror instead of high def horror, low res horror, where we don't have the budget to do like super high quality film stock. We were shooting on like 32 and we're transferring to VHS. There's going to be some loss of quality, but that's our good, cheap model of distribution. And it gives it that aesthetic that I think so much of us connect with. Now, people today who grew up today may not connect with the film like we did.
Right.
And appreciate it for that because they didn't grow up with it. But it's good to remember where horror came from back in those days. You get a lot of films today that are, I guess I got a lot of re-releases where the new 4K re-release or the high definition re-release, I think it loses a little bit, especially when they do stuff like Hammer horror and that really kind of bugs
It's
me.
so stupid because I don't care what you do. You can't take something that was shot in 480 and then make it fucking 4K. You just can't do it.
Right.
It's not going to look right.
So, but I dug this one, and that actually it's an interesting question, that I think I wanted to ask I put in there for the audience to answer.
Yeah, so the question of the moment is, what is your preference, VHS or DVD? Drop in the comments, the live chat, email us at weekinhorror@gmail.com, and just let us know. Maybe it'll get sorted out by age group. I always wonder about that. What
Right.
are your preferences formed in childhood? Because I was allowed to watch this stuff way too early. But
see, and I like what where did he put it? What Raven put here. It's like vinyl versus CDs.
Yeah.
And there I mean, vinyl heads will swear up and down that vinyl sounds better than CDs.
Well, you've also got the analog versus digital when you were really hardcore into it, because you've got a lot of people that only want, if they've got the money, they want the glass tubes. They don't want transistors because they don't like digital. And if they can afford it, go for it.
Right. So Elizabeth Sylvester is up with the DVD experience. And Anna says, I had one of those super expensive double VHS VCRs. Hell yes.
We just wired two together to federal crime.
Chris Durham says, screw that, Super 8 all the way.
There you go.
And Beaver C, you're right. Both do have their place.
Yep.
I think Aaron's right. It'll come down to kind of like the age, kind of like what generation you were brought in. And yeah, unless taken care of, you're right, NA. VHS degrades over time. That's why I take care of mine. Mine are kept, in cool, dry places and stored so that they don't. And I'll occasionally break them out so I can play them to make sure that the film stays supple. So,
not to mention, you don't want to get them magnetized.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want them anywhere near any electrical current flowing through walls if you can help it. It's not super strong, but over time, you would be surprised.
And of course, Jordan's going to fall right in the middle and just say, buy Laserdisc.
So I got a buddy that's got a Laserdisc. He swears by it.
Betamax, you sons of bitches.
Betamax. But definitely let us know in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com. Do you prefer your horror on VHS or DVD? We want to know.
What about Blu-ray? How about HD DVD?
I think it's just
Nothing's
DVD
good
and
on any
DVD
of
and
that.
beyond.
Well, thing that always reminds me of was Twilight Zone. If you ever watched, some of them were on the British film stock that looked a little bit nicer than the American, and I hate every one of them. You stand it.
I dig it because I love the old school look of like the Outer Limits.
Yeah.
And because when that was released on VHS, I just think those ones look phenomenal. Ivy Gentry's in the house. It's okay. My meeting is over. Fantastic. Well, that's
right
okay.
on time.
You're right on
Ours
time.
almost is too. Sorry.
Rodonella says, I keep my VHSs in a salt mine in a Faraday cage. Don't even look at it. And Tony G says, I love Whisperer in the Darkness because it has that retro vibe. Hell yes.
Well, that's what
stuff.
Stranger Things was so popular because it has that retro feel to it with music and everything about it was 80s and whatnot. The best generation.
Yeah, the logo
decade, by the way.
Right.
Oh yeah, the logo's made to match. What is it? The Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah.
Series. It's made to match that, and it's
that's something that people didn't even pick up on. A lot of people picked up on the Choose Your Own Adventure series, that style of logo.
And I just believed it was like the love child of Stephen King and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
that's why it caught me.
The Goonies meets oh god, the Club from Derry. What are they called?
Oh, the Losers Club.
The Losers Club.
Yeah.
It's also got some Dean Koontz in there, as odd as that sounds. If you ever read his, I think it's Midnight Bay series, it's got some serious influence that with the lab and everything.
Yeah.
That's in there.
All right. Well, I think it is about time, Johnny. What do you think?
Time to end the show. Goodbye, everybody. See ya. No? Oh, we got more things to do.
That's right.
Time for the thing that you guys are really here for. We know what it's not. Aaron's red hair, and it's certainly not JL's ass face.
lack of hair.
I didn't want to be mean and say lack of hair.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
I don't have tact.
I
I got blown off at some point.
I gotta pull the Matthew Lillard. Thanks, buddy.
It's weird seeing him in that. There's this show that my wife watches where he plays like a serious character. It's weird.
Are you talking about the one with the moms, or
is it only moms?
The collection of moms are money launderers?
Yes.
Yeah. He plays what's her name from Mad Men, Firefly? Christina Hendricks. Christina Hendricks' husband in that. Yeah.
It's odd seeing him play like this, straight up and down serious type character without being goofy and whatnot. Because it's like everything I've seen him in before, he's always had this, big whatever. But this is weird.
I'm seriously looking forward to meeting him at Texas Pride Mare this year, big time. Him, Skeet Ulrich, and Jamie Kennedy and Nev Campbell are all going to be at Texas Pride Mare weekend. So I'm looking forward to getting that. I want to get the cast photo where they're all sitting around the fountain, and I want to get them to sign that all individually. I think that'll be cool.
Nev Campbell. All right, fine. Let's ask this question of the day, or whatever we want to call it.
Yes, and we are giving away a We're giving away a Week in Horror limited edition number 5 T-shirt, the one featuring our very own and beloved Aaron Reese.
That's right.
Does it make me a narcissist that I bought one of those like within an hour after he released it?
That's hilarious. My trivia question answer is Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School.
Yes, he was in that.
He was in that, yeah.
Him and Sam Kinison.
Rodney Dangerfield is just...
Man, this teacher's great. He really cares a lot about what I have no idea.
All right, here we go. Let's see. Frank Henenlotter's very first film, the 1972 sexploitation short film Slash of the Knife, played on 42nd Street as a double feature with what infamous John Waters exploitation film? That was a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
So one more time. Frank Henenlotter's very first film, the 1972 sexploitation short film Slash of the Knife, played on 42nd Street as a double feature with what infamous John Waters exploitation film? First person in the chat, it will be the Wiener.
And that would be Wrote It No Last Name.
I figured it would be. My goodness.
Wrote It No Last Name. Got it.
Right, with Pink Flamingos. Pink Flamingos. That sounds like such a benign film. It could be, think about it, if you're just walking down the street, like, hey, let's go see Pink Flamingos. Like, all right, maybe. Kind of sounds a little like it's one of those burlesque, maybe not even burlesque, but one of those like ragtime style fucking musicals. Let's go check it out. Oh my God.
Yep. Oh, and Toad wrote it no last name. Says, finally, yes, congratulations, wrote it no last name. You knocked it out of the park with Pink Flamingos.
Yep.
And Tony Regime was right behind him with Pink Flamingos, right? And the George said, you are correct.
Yes.
Aaron said it earlier.
JL is not upset about it at all, by the way.
Why do you think I jumped in the tail? It was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I saw him coming too. It's like I stepped in front of the train and was like, the train. I was like that dude in Austin Powers. No, get out of the way. Move.
There's plenty of time for you to move.
Well, that tells you how quickly I had to pull everything together, as I even got that partially wrong because I thought Basket Case premiered alongside it. But no, this has been like having kids and doing anything else is hell.
This is true. This is true. But congratulations, wrote it no last name. I have got you written down. We will get that printed and shipped out to you ASAP. Congrats. Again, I'm glad we're finally able to send you shirt number 5. Limited edition shirt number 5 featuring Aaron Reese on the shirt is available in the Teespring store. And it will be up there for a limited time. So make sure you jump on yours before they go away. All right. And that will
forever. Or until Halloween. I mean, Christmas.
If the shirts don't sell, they're going to fire me. Buy the shirt.
Well, how the hell do you think we fund all this shit? We ain't exactly the March of Dimes.
Are you showing him the pretty face?
All right, and that will bring another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening, and we truly hope that you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when we look back at the near end of Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the creepy airplane horror Flight 7500, the terrifying reality twister Cube 2 Hypercube, and the amazing Barbara Crampton vampire horror Jacob's Wife. Barbara Crampton. We'd like to send a special shout out to all of our amazing patrons who continue to help us make Week in Horror the incredible success it has become. Thank you all so very, very much. Be sure to stop by Joshua Olsen's store, www.badsamurai.store. He does all of the amazing artwork for our show, and his designs are absolutely incredible. He's got some great stuff up there. I think that y'all will like it. For more horror fun, be sure to follow us on the socials where you'll get the daily splatter right to your feed, and at Digital Darkness, our new gaming channel hosted by Alien X Gaming. So I'm hoping we're going to have The Quarry up there really, really soon because that's a really solid one coming out. It's got David Arquette, Lance Henriksen, a number of others, Ethan Suplee. Amazing slasher game. Hopefully that will be up there as well. Please comment, like, subscribe, and smash that bell as if you are somebody's number one fan for all the latest updates from the show. Those interactions help us to appease that insatiable hunger of our dark god algorithm. And lastly, if you love what we do here and would like to and are able to support our production, you can through our Patreon. We have tiers as low as $1 a month. That's cheaper than a Walmart bin Juve Bowl film. Higher tiers get early and special After Dark access, bonus content, monthly horror movies, and can even join us as special judges for our Bloodbath debates and get access to our Week in Horror front row segments, which will be coming soon. But if Patreon is not your modus operandi, you can always support us directly through our PayPal. Links to everything, including our Discord community, where you can find film recommendations, the trailers for the films we talk about, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even interact directly with us, are in the description below. As always, sharing the show with the fans in your local horror community is the absolute best way you can to help us further our goals of global horror domination. Thank you all for being the greatest audience a podcast could have. I am JL.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm some dopey fat guy.
We call him Johnny. We'll see you all next week. And as always, stay scared.
You know what the most dangerous thing in the water is? A shark
Bad
fart.
joke.